some cartoon villains weren't completely wrong. Sure, they lied, manipulated, and usually made everything worse. But if you look past the dramatic music and the evil grin, some of them were pointing at real problems the heroes never wanted to face. And the crazy part? A few of them were actually making more sense than the good guys. So here are 7 cartoon villains who were actually right. Syndrome is the perfect place to start, because once you stop looking at him like a typical supervillain, his entire character changes.
Now you respect me, because I'm a threat. That's the way it works. Turns out there are a lot of people, whole countries, who want respect, and they will pay through the nose to get it.
As a kid, he adored Mr. Incredible. He wanted to help. He wanted to belong. And instead of getting guidance, he got rejected and humiliated. That one moment basically shaped his whole life. Now, obviously, becoming a murderous genius with a god complex is not a reasonable response, but his anger came from something real. He grew up in a world where some people were simply born better than everyone else.
This is because I don't have powers, isn't it? Well, not every superhero has powers, you know. You can be super without them.
And that is exactly what he hated. Syndrome looked at a society obsessed with superpowers and asked a question nobody else did. What happens to everyone who wasn't born special? That is not a dumb question. That is the kind of question that creates resentment, bitterness, and eventually someone like Syndrome. His methods were evil, but his point? A world that worships the gifted will always make ordinary people feel small. And somehow, that still isn't the most uncomfortable one on this list. Captain Hook feels ridiculous when you're a kid. He's dramatic, petty, overreacting to everything, and constantly losing to a flying child in green tights. But when you watch Peter Pan as an adult, something weird happens. You start noticing that Peter is kind of a nightmare. He's charming, sure, but he's also reckless, selfish, and completely disconnected from consequences. Everything is a game to him. Danger is funny, responsibility doesn't exist, and Hook is the one forced to live with that chaos. Also, let's not ignore the obvious. Peter fed Hook's hand to a crocodile. That's not a harmless prank. That's lifelong trauma. Suddenly, Hook stops looking like some random evil pirate and starts looking like a man trapped in an endless conflict with a child who never grows up, never reflects, and never changes.
Watch us, Wendy. Oh, Peter, do be careful.
That's what makes him interesting. Hook represents the thing Peter Pan never wants to admit. Eternal childhood sounds magical until somebody else has to deal with the damage. And if that already changes the movie for you, the next villain changes an even bigger one. Scar is one of the most iconic villains ever made, but underneath all the manipulation and murder, his frustration actually makes sense. Because Pride Rock is not some fair, noble kingdom. It's a monarchy. Power is inherited, not earned, not tested, not deserved.
Life's not fair, is it? You see, I shall never be king. And you shall never see the light of another day.
Mufasa rules because he was born into the right family. Simba is next for the exact same reason. And Scar, no matter how intelligent or politically aware he is, was never really given a chance. That system is rigged from the start. The movie frames Scar as jealous, and yes, he is. But jealousy is not his whole story. He's also reacting to a world where his place was decided for him before he could do anything about it.
Sarabi and I didn't see you at the presentation of Simba.
That was today?
The king's brother, you should have been first in line.
Well, I was first in line, until the little hairball was born.
That hairball is my son, and your future king.
Now, does he prove himself to be a terrible leader? Absolutely. The second he gets power, everything collapses. But that doesn't erase the fact that his core complaint was valid. He saw a kingdom built on bloodline and asked why everyone was pretending that was fair. Scar didn't become a villain because he questioned the system. He became a villain because he let hatred replace judgment. And speaking of villains shaped by pain, the next one might be the saddest of them all. Lotso is terrifying because he feels real. Before he became this controlling, bitter tyrant, he was just a toy who loved his owner. Then one day he got left behind. And when he finally made it back, he found out he had already been replaced. That is the moment that broke him. And the worst part is, in the Toy Story universe, his fear is completely justified. Toys get loved, then forgotten, then replaced. That's the cycle.
She replaced us. Come on.
No, she only replaced you.
She replaced all of us, didn't she?
Lotso just stopped lying to himself about it. That's why he becomes so cold. He doesn't trust love anymore because love is what hurt him. He doesn't believe in loyalty anymore because loyalty didn't save him. He turns Sunnyside into a prison because in his mind, hope is dangerous. And that's what makes him more than just another villain. He's the result of abandonment turning into ideology.
Tell me this, Sheriff. If your kid loves you so much, why is he leaving? You think you're special, cowboy? You're a piece of plastic. You were made to be thrown away.
Of course he goes too far. Of course he becomes cruel. But when Lotso says that being loved doesn't protect you from being replaced, he's not wrong. And the next villain is even more uncomfortable because he didn't just suffer inside a broken system. He exposed one. Randall is easy to hate. He's sneaky, jealous, intense, and clearly one bad day away from completely losing it. But the more you think about Monsters, Inc., the more obvious it becomes that Randall didn't create the cruelty of that world. He was shaped by it. Think about the system for a second. An entire society is powered by scaring children. That's normal in this universe.
Scariness is the true measure of a monster. If you're not scary, what kind of a monster are you?
Children are treated like energy sources. Fear is monetized and performance matters more than empathy. That world was already broken, but it's also not as random as it first seems. It's just the ugliest version of a logic that already existed. Get more screams, be more efficient, win at any cost. That's the mindset the system rewards.
Very impressive. Mr.
Sullivan. Jimmy Sullivan.
Sullivan. Like Bill Sullivan? The scarer?
Yeah. He's my dad.
Randall is what happens when competition completely kills morality. He's not some outside monster invading a healthy world. He's the natural outcome of a world that was already morally rotten. And once you realize that, he becomes way more disturbing. Because sometimes the villain isn't the disease. Sometimes he's just the symptom. But if Randall is the symptom, the next villain is something even more human. Pure fear of becoming irrelevant. Turbo is one of the most human villains in animation because at the center of his story is a fear almost everybody understands. He used to matter. People loved his game. He had attention, purpose, relevance. Then the world moved on. Newer games arrived. He stopped being special. And instead of accepting that, he broke. That's what makes Turbo so effective. He is not driven by revenge. He is driven by obsolescence. He cannot handle the idea of being forgotten. And honestly, that fear is painfully real. A lot of people build their identity around being admired, needed, or noticed. So what happens when that disappears? What happens when the thing that gave you meaning suddenly doesn't matter anymore? For Turbo, the answer is simple. He would rather steal a new identity than face irrelevance.
What the? Who are you?
I'm Turbo, the greatest racer ever! And I did not reprogram this world to let you and that halitosis riddled warthog take it away from me!
That's tragic before it's evil. Of course he becomes manipulative, of course he becomes dangerous. But the emotional core of his character still works because his fear feels real. In a world obsessed with what's new, being forgotten feels like death. And the final villain on this list might be the most unsettling one, because his warning actually came true. Shere Khan is usually presented as the terrifying tiger who wants Mowgli gone. And as a kid, that feels simple. The tiger is cruel, Mowgli is innocent, end of story. But that's not how Shere Khan sees it. To him, Mowgli is not just a child, he is a human. And humans in the jungle mean fire, destruction, control, death.
Now here's your part of the deal, cuz. Laid a secret on me of man's red fire.
But I don't know how to make fire.
That fear is not random. That fear is based on what humans do. Shere Khan understands something the rest of the jungle keeps ignoring. Mowgli may be kind, but he still belongs to the one species capable of destroying everything around it. And the movie itself proves that Shere Khan wasn't imagining the threat. Mowgli does end up using fire. The exact thing Shere Khan feared becomes real. Now, does that justify hunting him down? No. But it does prove that his warning had truth in it. That's what makes Shere Khan so memorable. He isn't scary because he invents danger. He's scary because he recognizes real danger and chooses violence as the answer.
No matter how fast you run, no matter where you hide, I will catch you. Come out wherever you are. So, what's it going to be, man cub? You or your adorable little girlfriend?
And that might be the pattern that connects every villain on this list. That's what makes great cartoon villains so memorable. They're not just evil for the sake of being evil. They usually start with something real. Rejection, unfairness, abandonment. Fear, irrelevant, survival? The problem is not always what they see. The problem is what they become after seeing it. Because a villain who is completely wrong is easy to dismiss. But a villain who has a point, that's the one you keep thinking about after the movie ends. So now I'm curious, which cartoon villain do you think was actually right? And who do you think should have been on this list?